Hello everybody, my name is Natalia Leigh and I'm the author of the young adult novels Highborn, Way of Spears, and the soon-to-be-released Song of the Dryad. I was tagged to do the author origin tag by Jessi Elliott, but this tag was actually created by Evie Driver. I will link to her video down below. I will also link to Jessi's video down below so that if you like this tag, you can check out both the original and Jessi's video in which I was tagged. So I'm going to be answering some of these questions and just kind of discussing how I got into writing and how I became the author that I am today. So let's jump right into it. Alright, question number 1 is backstory. When and why did you start writing? How old were you? And in which genres did you begin writing? So when and why did you start writing? I've always been a writer. Even when I was very, very young, I enjoyed writing. But as far as storytelling goes, I started getting more serious about storytelling when I was in the 8th grade. And I started storytelling through text-based role play. I was on a lot of role play forums on Pro Boards. That was like the main forum hosting website that I liked to use. So I would make up my own characters, and along with many, many other writers on these forums, we would create our own characters and write stories together, and it was absolutely amazing. I would spend entire summers on a computer writing stories with many other people, and it absolutely like ignited my love for storytelling. And if not for text-based roleplay, I probably wouldn't be writing like I am today. Alright, so going along with backstory is in which genres did you begin writing? And I'm going to answer this for like when I actually started working on books, because when I was writing on roleplay forums, I wrote in everything across the board. There was paranormal, there was historical, there was contemporary, like I wrote everything. But as far as novels go, I started writing in like a paranormal fantasy genre. Vampires were something that I liked to write about. I'm struggling to remember the other stories I told. Like I tried to write a dystopian once, but that barely got off the ground. I tried to write like a royal-esque romance. That barely got off the ground, although I would like to write that still. But I'd say that like when I first started writing, the only genre that actually kept my attention was paranormal and specifically vampires. Alright, question number 2, protagonist. What was your first main character like? How have your tastes or muses changed since then? So my characters have always been flat, you know, or my characters aren't flat now, but before my characters were always flat because I didn't even understand how people worked or how relationships worked. And you can't write characters that don't have like complex interactions with other humans, because that's how we work. So they were all flat, and what has changed is that I have grown up a little bit. I've had many more and new experiences, and I have a better idea about how people work and like the nuances between different personalities and interactions between people. So I feel that I've worked quite hard at making my characters more three-dimensional, more believable, and more lifelike and realistic. And I certainly hope that that pays off when you guys read Song of the Dryad when it comes out. Alright, question 3, antagonist. What is the worst writing advice or feedback you've ever received? And what was your first rejection or confidence-breaking experience like? These are wonderful questions. So what is the worst writing advice that I've ever received? That's hard to say because I think that each piece of writing advice works for some people. Like, one that comes to mind would be write what you know. And I think that that's both a good tip and a bad tip, because writing what I know has allowed me to write much more realistically. Like, for example, in Way of Spears, there's a character that has a bow and arrow, and I myself have practiced archery. I have my own bow and arrow. I really got into it for a while, and I really enjoyed it, and that allowed me to write more realistically because I knew what I was talking about. But then at the same time, I've never traveled to the fairy realm, but I'm writing it in Song of the Dryad, so you can't always write what you know. But again, I wouldn't say that that's bad writing advice. I think that it works in some situations and it doesn't work in other situations. You know, there's the writing advice of write every single day. And that works for some people and it doesn't work for other people. For me, writing every single day helps me to get into a routine. If I stop writing or if I don't work for one day, sometimes I fall off the writing train and then I struggle to get back on. But that's not going to work for everybody. Sometimes somebody just needs to write a couple times a week to keep with their routine. So I can't say off the top of my head that there's one piece of bad writing advice, because I just think that every tip out there will work for some people and not work for other people. And then the second part of that question is your first rejection or confidence breaking experience. Well, I've certainly received rejections from agents, but honestly, they don't faze me. And then as far as a confidence breaking experience, that would be when my professor, my creative writing professor, pretty much told me that Way of Spears was shit. She didn't say it like that, but she kind of laughed at it and wondered why I was even writing it, if it wasn't original, because fantasy has already been done, and why would you ever want to write this? And it was absolutely horrible. I was really affected by that. I was deeply affected by it. And I took a few months off of writing. I just stopped. I couldn't even bear to look at Way of Spears after receiving that feedback. But the best part about that experience was that I pushed through it, and I'm stronger now than I was before. So receiving harsh criticism will always be hard, but I have certainly learned how to try to push through it and overcome it. Tifa, question number 4 is superpower. What part of writing or the writing process do you feel is your greatest strength? I think that this changes as you develop as a writer, but at this point I want to say that my deepest strength is in trying to understand people. When I used to write, I used to just write things oh, this is going to happen and this is how the character is going to respond to it. But now, every time I write something like that, I try to truly understand how it would feel for that character to experience that thing that's happening. And this is something that I can only get better at. The more I practice at it and the more, I write, the more characters I, experience, I will get better at this. But I'd say that right now I do pride myself on being able to write realistic characters and being able to truly try to get inside their minds and understand their perception of the world, and through that, how they are going to interact with the different problems and obstacles that I throw their way. My voice sounds a little bit rough right now, and I think it's because I choked on a plum earlier. I just took a big bite and all the plum juice went down the wrong side of my throat, and I swear I coughed for 10 minutes, and now my throat is kind of gravelly, so that's what's going on. All right, question number 5, kryptonite. What part of writing or the writing process do you feel is your weakest? The first draft. I guess I kind of shifted that, but as far as the hardest thing for me, what I find to be the most difficult is the first draft, because I'm having to tell myself the story for the first time, and that's when it's most difficult. And then every single time I edit and revise after that, it becomes a little bit easier, because I already have the skeleton of the story put together, and then from that point forward, it's just adding to it, moving things around, dressing it up, fleshing it out, and that's what I really love. So my kryptonite is the first draft and telling the story to myself for the first time. All right, question number 6, training montage. What strengths or weaknesses changed over the years? Additionally, what have you done over the years to better your craft? What strengths or weaknesses have changed? All of them, really, because I feel like everything used to be my weakness, and now I have actual strengths. Because when you first start writing, you probably don't know what you're doing. I know I didn't know what I was doing, and I had to learn. I really had to practice. I'd say that a weakness when I first started writing, on those roleplay forums, because on those roleplay forums, it's the community writes in a certain way. Certain types of posts, as we called them, were revered above the others. So I definitely used to write with very heavy metaphors. Everything was a metaphor. That was regarded as top-notch writing. And I also used to use adverbs a lot and ridiculous adjectives all the time. I thought ridiculous adjectives made a story stronger, but really they just detract from what you're trying to say. I I never used to describe blue eyes as blue eyes. Like, I have blue eyes. You know what that means. I used to always describe them as like ocean eyes or deep pools of eyes or turquoise eyes or sapphire eyes or sky blue eyes. Like, it was too much. It was too much. All I had to say was blue eyes. Now, with some characters, maybe they do have something a little bit special about their eyes or some sort of description that warrants using those stronger, more eccentric adjectives, but I use them all the time. They were like my norm, and it was so tedious to read, and I'm really glad that I've overcome that. What have you done over the years to better your craft? I've just never given up. I write and I write and I write, and I read and I try to learn. And honestly, YouTube videos have helped so much. Like, Song of the Dryad, I wrote after I wrote Way of Spears. Like, it was Way of Spears and then Song of the Dryad right after that. And the difference in quality between the two of them, I think, is enormous. Like, Way of Spears, I feel, is not anywhere near the quality of Song of the Dryad, because I've learned so much via YouTube, you know, through being part of this community, learning alongside you guys, trying to teach you guys what I know and what I've been learning. So, there has just been such a growth in my craft in the past 2 years that I've been writing Song of the Dryad, and that's due to being part of this community on YouTube and never giving up. All right, question number 7, weapon of choice. What programs have you used over your writing journey? What is your favorite right now and why? Programs, Microsoft Word and Scrivener. Microsoft Word and Scrivener. I guess those would be the only programs. I might think of a different one after I'm editing this video, but for now I'll just say Microsoft Word and Scrivener, and I like them both for different reasons. When I am drafting or outlining and I'm in like the beginning stages of building up this new idea, absolutely Scrivener, because it allows me to break everything down into chapters, into scenes. I have all of my research, my characters, my settings, everything. Like, it's like a massive storyboard that you can just quickly flip through. So I love it for that. But when I get into like the smaller, more tedious edits, such as like changing word choice, you know, moving this comma from this word to that word, that stuff I do in Microsoft Word, because once I get to a certain point in Scrivener, I will compile the entire document into one Microsoft Word document, and then I will edit off of that. The only time that I would be editing in Scrivener is if I was doing large developmental edits, but once I get to the line edits and the more like tedious little changes, that will always be in Microsoft Word. So I like them both, but for very different reasons. All right, question number 8, trusted sidekick. Every Batman has his Robin. What is your favorite companion to cuddle or consume while writing? Has this changed over the years? If so, does this also differ from daytime to nighttime? So while I'm writing, I always like to have something to drink and something to eat. And part of that is that I struggle to focus if I don't have something that I'm like doing on the side of writing. So I'd say that like one snack that I will always turn to that is not very good for my health, they're very hard on my body, is sunflower seeds, like roasted and salted sunflower seeds, but the ones in the shell. So I will like take a big mouthful of them and be like constantly cracking them and working on eating them while I'm writing. And that works really well because like the process of doing that is entertaining the part of my brain that needs a distraction. So then I'm free to focus on my writing. But it's very hard on my body, like the salt, like I try to buy seeds that are like more organic, non-GMO with like clean salt. But if I ever get any that have like too much salt or like a low quality salt, then it like burns my mouth and burns my tongue, and it's just horrible. And then what I used to always eat and drink while I was writing was coffee and chocolate chip cookies. And I still love coffee and chocolate chip cookies. I still drink coffee every single morning. I don't eat chocolate chip cookies very often anymore. I have become more aware of my body and my nutrition and my diet, and I try not to have a bunch of sugar in my diet. And chocolate chip cookies are amazing and delicious and heavenly, but they are very high in sugar content. Again, unless I make them at home and I like cut back on all the sugar. So I used to literally get like a platter of 5 large chocolate chip cookies and a big mug of sweetened coffee and consume all of that in one evening while writing. And it was amazing, and I look back on those times with nostalgia and with warmth, but I would never do that to myself now because I just know that my body doesn't respond to poor food choices in a good way anymore. So I would say that yes, I always have to have like a companion of food and drink beside me, but that companion has changed over the years. All right, question number 9, 0 to hero. When you first began this journey, what level of success did you imagine for yourself? Is where you're currently at on your writing journey heading for the destination? If not, how has your dream evolved over the years? When I first started writing, I didn't know what was going to become of it. Like, I just knew that I enjoyed it. And then I got it into my head, like in high school, that maybe I could be an author. Like, maybe I could do it, but I could never finish a book. I could never finish a book, and it was very frustrating and distressing. So my first year of college, I had an undeclared major. I was just taking basic classes, I was taking fun art classes, and I was just enjoying myself. And then my second year of college is when I went to Colorado State University, and I was majoring in equine science. I am somebody that is very passionate about horses and about all animals, and I was studying equine science, but I didn't know what I wanted to do with that. Like, I was interested in horses, and I always have been, and while I was in college, I actually ended up managing a barn and being a horseback riding instructor, and I got so much like hands-on experience, and it was amazing, and I grew in so many ways through that experience. But I knew that I did not want to be like a breeder or a geneticist or a trainer. Like, I didn't want to do those things, and in many ways those career paths really don't merge with who I am now and my beliefs and the way that I approach animals. So I'm very glad that I did not continue on that path. But again, like, the reason that I chose equine science is because I did not believe that I could be an author. I was like, that's not going to work. I can't finish books. I chose equine science because I was like, why would I choose a creative writing degree? Why would I choose to major in that? I can never be an author. I literally did 1 semester of equine science, and I said, this is not for me. I'm a writer at heart. I need to be an English major. And English majors were kind of laughed at my school, but all in good fun because, like, it's English. But I majored in English with a concentration in creative writing, and honestly, I am at a point now where I hoped I would be, but never thought I would be. It's kind of like, what can I relate this to? Like starting a YouTube channel. I really wanted to hit 1,000 subscribers, but I never thought I would get there, and now I'm here. So it's like I'm on the path to going where I want to go. It still seems like a fantasy to me, like the idea that people will buy my books. Like, people buy my books now, but not, it's not like I'm selling hundreds of books every month. That's not happening. But it's like, if I could get to the point where my books were actually selling and people were interacting with them, and I could afford to stay home and write more books, like, that's where I want to get to. I'm not there yet, but I'm on the path, and I truly hope that I'm able to attain that. And actually, strike that last bit. I don't hope to attain it. I know that I will attain it. I don't know how many years it's going to take, but I'm not going to give up, and I'm going to work extremely hard, and I'm going to keep learning every single day, and that's how I know that I will attain it. Question number 10, remember my name. Fame. What authors helped you realize your interest or passion for writing? What books helped shape your writing style, genre of choice, or tastes? I'm going to be very brief and say Stephenie Meyer and Twilight. Like, Twilight was the first book that I read that I absolutely fell in love with. It was like, I had always enjoyed reading, but I had never connected with a novel before I read Twilight. Like, Twilight was my first introduction into wishing I could embody one of the characters, wishing I could be in Forks, Washington, meeting the Cullens. Like, I wanted so badly to be in that novel and to be in that world. And that's when I realized the true power of storytelling. So I'll say that definitely Twilight and Stephenie Meyer were the greatest sources of inspiration for me, because that was the first novel that clicked in my head, and I said, I want to do this. I need to do this. I need to be able to tell stories that can affect people in this way. So I have only read the Twilight, I don't know, would you call it like a quartet? I'm not really sure. I've only read the Twilight books once. I don't plan on going back and rereading them because I'm at a very different like literary level now. But they will always have a very like fond place in my heart for the way that they inspired me to start writing. All right, question number 11. Marvel versus DC. Comparison is dangerous. How has comparing your author journey to others dismantled or helped your own? Any advice to overcome this? I think that comparing yourself is very normal. It's natural. It's something that we all do in different ways. You compare the way you look to others, the way you talk to others, your level of success. Like, you will always compare yourself to others. But I think what's important is realizing your own successes and being proud of that. Like, I don't compare myself to others as often anymore. When I first started on authortube, I did it quite frequently. You know, I'd compare myself to everybody else and, you know, why do these people have more views on their videos? Why is this book selling better than mine? I don't understand. But I've arrived at a place now where I know that each of us is different. We offer something different to everybody. Like, my books will never offer the same story as somebody else's books will. I will never write in the same voice as somebody else will. My videos will always be my videos. They're never going to be like somebody else's. And when you learn how to be proud of that and proud of yourself and your own creativity and your own sense of self, then comparison doesn't matter as much anymore. I'm proud of my books. I'm proud of my hard work. I'm proud of my YouTube channel. And I no longer compare myself to other creators because I know that there's nothing to be gained from it at this point. The positive that I would say in comparing yourself to others is, one, like a little dash of competitiveness isn't necessarily a bad thing. Like, when you see somebody else is just killing it and working really hard and doing an amazing job, it might inspire you to work harder. And I think that that can be a really positive thing as long as you like keep the good vibes going. And then also, like, the other positive thing about comparison is learning how to not do it anymore, which is the point that I'm at. And it was hard and it took time to get here. I'd be happy to talk about it in a different video if that's something you're interested in. But where I'm sitting now, I'm not comparing myself to other writers or other creators. I'm just happy being in my little space in the world, writing my characters, filming my videos, and interacting with you guys. All right, question number 12, the obligatory love interest. Looking back on your earliest projects, what genres have you grown to love or hate to write? I tried to write romance before, but I've discovered that a romantic subplot is very interesting to me. But like, romance as a genre isn't very interesting to me. I'm also not as interested in dystopian novels. Like, I used to be obsessed with dystopian when Hunger Games came out and like Divergent and stuff, but I kind of believe that we're living in a bit of a dystopian world, so I'm more interested in the real world and how things are going down. All right, question number 13, arch nemesis. What are the most common excuses you've given to yourself or outside forces you've overcome that prevent or prevented you from writing your story or crushed your confidence? I never gave excuses about not being able to write, except like, I guess one would be, I'm not good enough. And that's one that I think many of us experience and go through. And the only way to overcome it is just by working really hard and never giving up and realizing that your work is good enough. And it's only going to continue to get better the more you practice at it. So, you know, I was never like, oh, I don't have time to write this. Oh, I have to focus on this. Oh, here's my other excuse. Like, mine was always, it's not good. Like, I'm not going to write. It's not good. But you have to write in order for it to become good. So I feel that, I know that I've overcome that because I no longer cringe at the things that I write, and I certainly used to. But it just takes like slowly working your way through it and pushing through and knowing that what is on the other end of those excuses is so much better than making the excuses. Like, I would so much rather work really hard and see the outcome than make excuses for myself about why I can't, write or do those things. So if you're making excuses for yourself, ask yourself why, and ask yourself what the light at the end of the tunnel is. Like, if you were to stop making excuses and work really hard and achieve your goals, wouldn't it be better than making the excuses in the first place? All right, question number 14, superhero name. When you began, did you consider using a pen name? If you're using a pen name now, why did you decide to use one? If not, why did you use your real name? So for the first part of that question, when you began, did you consider using a pen name? Did I? I mean, when I first started putting my work out there, absolutely. Like when I was writing on roleplay forums, it's not like I was using my name on there. I had an alias, I had a screen name, and that's how I wrote. People knew me by that screen name. They didn't know me by my real name, especially as a young person on the internet. My parents had always really reminded me not to give out any personal information, hence why I wrote with a screen name, and I never used my real name. And in fact, most of the people that, like thinking back, most of the people that I wrote with never used their real names. It was always, you know, a screen name or an alias. And I think that there can be pros and cons to either way. If you select to use your real name, then you're never going to accidentally mess up your name or forget what it is or have those awkward encounters. But at the same time, you're kind of putting yourself out there for people to find out things about you that maybe you didn't want them to find out about, you know, if your real name is out there. But then, you know, if you're using a pen name, sure, you're going to be able to hide more about yourself, but it's going to be much more awkward trying to build up that personality and that brand. Granted, I would also say that building a brand could be a positive for using a pen name because you get to build an entirely new internet presence for that pen name rather than having like your Facebook and your Instagram and your random, you know, MySpace posts attached to your real name. So I think that there are pros and cons no matter which way you decide to go. Personally, I'm not really going to reveal right now whether Natalia Leigh is my real name or is it my pen name. But I want to know, you guys, do you think that my real name is Natalia Leigh or do you think my real name is something else? Let me know in the comments down below. Alright, number 15, Avengers Assemble. Tag a few of your favorite people to do this tag on their channel. I did not look at who had been tagged before I did this. So let's just throw some names out there and then I'm going to check all these channels, see if they've done it, and if not, I'll leave them in this video. Meg from iWriterly. I'm going to tag Peggy Spencer. I am going to tag Louise Hanley. And who else could I tag here? Kate Kavanaugh. So these numbers might be incorrect. So those are the people that I'm tagging. They will also all be listed down below so that if you don't know who they are, you can check out their channels and learn a little bit more about them. I love all of them. They're absolutely wonderful creators, so check them out. Again, Jessi, thank you so much for this tag today. Evie, thank you for creating this original tag. It was a lot of fun. I feel like I got to talk through a bit more like personal things about my author origin. So I really appreciate the questions that you included in this tag. There are some difficult ones in there. There are some that, you know, for those of you that are going to be doing this tag, they might be hard to like work through. But I think it's important to be able to talk about our learning experiences and our past and how we became the writers that we are today. So thank you guys so much for watching today. I truly appreciate it, and I will see you in my next video. Bye!